All right, good evening. Let's get some nicotine and begin. We will we'll give people a couple of minutes and then, well, not even that. We'll give them 30 seconds. And then we'll start the deep dive analysis into the current boredom of the market and see where we go. All right. So how's everybody doing? Because it ain't been that fun, right? A little bit of a slowdown since we last chatted. I think the last time we chatted was pre all-time highs, and we were kind of like setting up in the momentum is good, lower time frame looks strong, higher time frame looks strong, we're up significantly. Are we going to get this little mini correction before we make a push for all-time highs, or are we simply going to go from here? And obviously here we are at the moment, having pushed into all-time highs. I've been away for like 10 days or so from the last stream, a little bit longer maybe, and the conditions have turned far choppier. And so what we've kind of had is that really awkward part of any uptrending or aggressive momentum to the upside market, in which people now lose money in the chop because the anticipation, the expectation is still that we continue higher, and therefore it leads to lots of lower time frame trading, lots of attempts at trying to catch the next leg up. Too many inflated expectations in terms of how we trade in the shorter term. And unfortunately, the market tends to punish that by entering these periods of choppiness, which is one of the things that kind of we were discussing last time, which is, you know, stopping when you're getting these big wins, just because the market usually takes some time to consolidate and chill out after we enter those moments. And so from a BTC perspective, we'll try and keep the analysis relatively clean and simple through here. There's a couple of kind of interesting points for us on BTC. The first one is actually this level here. And I changed all this around for a little Haven stream for the US Open today. But this is the first one, and these are the weekly highs. And so as long as we're trading above these weekly highs, I think that's a positive situation for BTC through this zone. So where we are here, I think this is fine. Higher time frame, this is all looking good. Nothing to be concerned about. Nice little area of consolidation, chilling out, whatever. But obviously keeping in mind that this is the weekly chart. And so, you know, we're like 2 weeks into that. Then when we get down to the slightly lower time frames, then we start to get into kind of the areas of interest and certainly the areas of discussion that people will be having. And what we've got through here is area of resistance, you know, formerly this 106.2-ish level, had multiple sell-offs into trying to overcome this level, simply couldn't do it. And then this side over here is basically now where we're kind of, you know, all going to be discussing the whole deviation bullshit if this level fails. Okay, so if this level fails. If you've got problems on the Twitch side, so the last 3 people said anyone seeing the video or just a black screen, it's because you're on Twitch. So hop into one of the other locations. Yeah, there you go. Works on YouTube, but not Twitch. Yeah, that's fine. We'll we can can it on Twitch. But yeah, if you're tuning in from Twitch, come on over to either Twitter or YouTube. And so, yeah, so if we fail this area here, then we're going to re-enter this area. And this is like a little bit awkward to even define for me as a range, because for me, like this is the obviously the ascent and the upside price action. This is the corrective price action, the lows down here, and then this is fresh ascent. So like I think it's difficult to map out range boundaries here. Maybe we've got a midpoint through here. Okay, so we're going to be trading like these are our highs, these are our range, this is the range midpoint, and these are the lows. And then we're just going to re-enter this range. But if this market fails to sustain above these weekly highs, I think we're going to start having a lot of discussion on this being a deviation. And so we're going to be in a scenario like this. So we really want to try and stick this level and break back above this 106.2. That's where we want to be. If we cannot stick that, then yeah, problem. And Twitter's just going to be hell, because if we enter that, then it means that everything else is cooked as well. Yeah, Barry, I was really happy with my metal and stock focus over crypto recently. I think a lot of people would be. And then ETH is very similar in terms of the simple analysis that kind of we're looking at through this zone. ETH is very, very simple. It basically just looks like this. We're in a consolidation period. ETH is probably doing a slightly nicer consolidation than BTC, but BTC obviously has the edge because it's pushed into price discovery all-time highs. But ETH through here is doing a relatively decent job of a sideways consolidation. We're like 24 days into consolidation. So if you're getting frustrated and pissed off with the trading, that's why. Right? It's 24 days. From a crypto perspective, that's like 3 months. So that's a very long time for us to be chopping back and forth, especially when ETH was the one that captured everybody's attention with the significant dailies that it was putting in, and now it's slowed down. So that volatility has dropped right off. We're now trading in this consolidation cluster on the daily time frame. We're looking for simply the directional break up or down from this daily consolidation cluster. Now, I cannot tell you which direction this is going to go. If I was believing the short or the shorter term trend, I would say it's going to break to the upside, but I have no idea which way this is going to go. It's not my job to know from the midpoint of a consolidation which way it's going to break. It's my job to react when it does something actionable. Okay, so I don't have to sit here and pretend to you that I either know the outcome or I'm going to take an educated guess at the outcome. I don't. But what there is there is a plan on both sides of this in order to be able to try and play something and to be able to take a trade. Now, if ETH breaks the downside, I think that it becomes a very easy target for it at 2150. This is a super important level for ETH. Okay, it's been a significant level for ETH for a long, long time. And if we trade down here, I think it becomes a very clear and obvious buying opportunity, because the risk reward is skewed heavily in your favor to be a buyer here. And so we would look at being a buyer down in this region here. So anything that gets into that 2150 and below area, we have really good risk reward to try and play that up towards a 3K push. If ETH shows strength and it instead breaks the top side, then we're looking for clean breakouts. We need to be aware and we need to be clear that this is actually breaking to the upside. Okay, it's not a fake out like this one. We actually have a clear candle close above here. Now, you may think as well that's like very difficult to play into. It's actually not. It's usually just the mental process that makes it more difficult to play into. So if you take a look at this area down here, when we broke 2150, that was a significant daily signal that we were back above this very strong level. If you would have longed on the daily close here, so that would have been horrendous in terms of you looking at that and being like, you know what? I'm going to long this. All right, as soon as this daily closes, I'm going to long it. That would have been like madness to even think that you could do that. Okay. The reality is if you took that position, your drawdown, your total drawdown was less than 1% on that daily signal. So despite ETH putting in that ridiculous candle up here, which was a 23% daily candle, and you would have longed the daily close, the Pico top of it, you would have suffered a 1% drawdown before a very easy 17% upside gain over the next 2 days. Okay, so there's your nice setup there. Now, if that situation develops here, again, it's a play. It's a play. It's an easy play. If it breaks the consolidation cluster and we're looking for the push into 3K and above. Another significant level for ETH just above here. So 3050, somewhere to get us through that nice big round number and push into the mid 3000. Very, very simple. But I don't need to guess in here. I don't need to, you know, do anything in here to try and determine the outcome. Just let the market chop, let people lose money in here, make a decision based on what we do on a higher time frame. Why are you using white charts? So 2017. Yeah. Why wouldn't you use a white chart? It looks so much better than anything that you can put forward on dark mode. Dark mode is fucking trash. Only people that use dark mode are the fucking morons that are out here scalping fucking graduating contracts. Can you analyze ENA? Yeah, resistance. The other problem that we have with the market at the moment, not really necessarily a problem, but there's a couple of things that are going on that are interesting in the TradFi world as well. So you've got relatively decent responses actually now on SPX. So you've actually got relatively decent response through this area now. So this is setting up far nicer than we have been. So we're actually starting to, on the index side, do pretty decently. The downside to SPX performing relatively well is that it looks as though the 6,000 run will happen. Again, that's kind of that large round number we didn't quite get to. Futures traded into like 59.97. So we didn't quite clip into the 6,000s, which I think will definitely happen. Then we might see an outcome. But the metals are very strong. And typically, that is a problem for other markets. So silver had its best day in like 3 months the other day. It was up nearly 6% on the day. Gold has been pushing and teasing again back towards a breakout of its consolidation on the higher time frame, as you can see through here. And remembering that gold is still a market that is, you know, all-time high price discovery mode, no real levels of resistance through here apart from what we're developing as we're trading. And so you've got metals that are looking very strong. You previously, up until today, had indexes that were looking as though they were maybe weakening slightly. And so the market's a little bit kind of back and forth at the moment on where the money should be. The fact that metals have taken off and look very strong is a concern. But at the moment, the indexes are just continuing higher. So, you know, I don't want to... right now, all about the simplicity. So I'm not gonna overanalyze it too much, but it is an important point in terms of noting. Which side crypto is going to be correlated to? I mean, we've always typically been correlated with the index side of things. Don't see any reason why that would change. This is good. Honestly, this is good for FARTCOIN. Yeah, I think this is good for FARTCOIN. I think this is what's needed on this market. This area here is a really uncomfortable loss of momentum. You can see it demonstrated here in the AO. And you can also see it just eyeballing the RSI as well. So we get this drop off of momentum all the way through the highs. We've already had, I think this is 40% correction. We did it earlier today. 40% correction. And this is unfortunately a nasty turnaround that we've had from here. And when I did the Haven stream this afternoon, I spoke about this area here. And I said the fact that whenever I see alts or markets in general that are doing this style of consolidation after a sell-off, it's always like slightly concerning that all we're doing is flagging through here. But there's no confirmation of that until we actually start breaking down, which obviously now is in effect. So as it stands, just lower prices, but I still think that this is a you know, a great market, number one, to be trading, and a great market in terms of opportunity. Just think you want to see us correct. Imagine if we ended up taking out all of this run up and we ended up trading back into the most significant zone that we have on here, which is like 61 to 65 cents. That'd be a great opportunity to trade. And FARTCoin's also always going to be a great trade on the reversion basis. So if we do sell off very aggressively like we are at the moment and we get those double-digit sell-offs, then it's also a great market to play back to the upside because it typically recovers very strongly. But overall, the market's like a little bit messy. This still looks like it wants to break down. This is still, you know, if we're taking a look at FARTCoin, this is just consolidating in the same way on BTC here. We know we're at that important daily level. It's taken out all of the highs through this zone. Maybe it is just the, to answer one of the other points, maybe it is just the summer volatility drop-off that we come to expect or anticipate. You're too focused on a specific shitcoin. There are millions of them now, and they could rotate out this garbage anytime. Well, the same is true of the entire space. There's so many fucking L1s. Like, it's true of the entire space. Like, the entire space is just fucking Fugazi bullshit. Yeah, and people looking for the sub 100K, and like, yeah, it's here. Like, this is the fill. This is the fill zone. Like, you wanna like gap fill this. And this is the area on the daily. And then the downside to that and this area on the daily is the fact that it is the loss then of the high breakout. So when you're looking at longing this level, like how comfortable are you longing this level, knowing that then we have failed to break cleanly through 106.2? So if you long here, I think this is a perfectly acceptable trade and absolutely can be trend continuation. I guess it's slightly more concerning given that the last thing to happen was a failed breakout and then trap back under the resistance. Yeah. I said this week in the Telegram that like the three main markets that were like interesting from a long perspective were hype, silver, and gold. Hype still looks decent. You know, the bears will be calling for a lower high through here and a market structure shift. It still looks good. And like you got a lot of work to do to beat down this chart still. Not saying it can't happen, of course. Would 0.9 the swing low on FARTCoin be a good POI for a possible entry? Three-day would line up pretty well with it, honestly. Maybe 8.3 though. That's the problem. Is like, you know, I move the mouse cursor down like a fraction and we jump like fucking 15% in price. But yeah, maybe. Wait, we're at the point of the cycle where we're talking about the fucking creator of a token is cited in the ETH white paper. That's what we have now is the bullish fuel. God. Silver feels so choppy. Gold has been easier. Silver's fine. Yeah, like silver's been choppy, but you're not trading at lower time frame. Like you're not here to make money for lower time frame silver. I think, you look at higher time frame, it's been a daily consolidation. It's just been timing the breakout. That's all. It's just been figuring out when this move was going to happen. This has been your consolidation. This has been your chop period. Very good response after the initial like fucking minus 7% days. My silver bars practically melting in front of my eyes. And then consolidation. Then it's just timing that consolidation break. And this was the first one here. This was the first impulse here. You've had a week of consolidation after, second leg. Important level at 35. You've got to break through 35. Goes all the way back 13 years. Ain't this level here, but it's still a pain in the dick for silver to get through. When it breaks, good. What are you doing if you're holding FARTCoin spot? Hold, sell, or buy? I mean, it depends on entry. Depends on entry. If your entry's like ridiculously high and you can't handle all the drawdown, then so you got a decision to make. But otherwise, you're just going to use this as opportunity. "13-year resistance." Yeah. What were we looking at earlier? What the fuck was the shit? We were looking at palladium and platinum. Look at some of this shit. I said, look at the platinum chart. All right, this here is. Let's take it from here to be kind. Actually, no, fuck it. Let's take it from here. There's 10 years. 10 years of back and forth chop in a 15% range. You imagine if BTC traded for 10 years like this? Imagine what Twitter would be like. We can handle like 3 days of chop before everyone just turns to fighting each other again. Imagine what happened if we did that for 10 years. If this was our market. Just 10% range for 10 years. Just fucking enjoy that. Yeah, boom attack. That could be BTC though, Link PA on platinum. Yeah. BTC decided now that FARTCoin's had a bit of a sell-off that it's time to start moving down as well. Perfect. Good evening, Tilt. None of us would be here if that's a crypto market. Yeah, man. I'd be like streaming to 3 people discussing that we traded from $980 to $970 on platinum. And I could tell you all about the RSI divergences across the 1-minute chart for the $10 range. Rotational markets as well on the plat side or the metal side. So rotational markets, and you see that through palladium as well. But also the fact that kind of the safe haven argument still resides mainly in silver and gold, and then platinum trickle down commodity usage, etc. So just a bit of a harder market in terms of doesn't have as much demand from a safe haven perspective too. Yeah, I haven't taken profit on Tesla yet, but will be doing. I don't think I've got like a major rush to get out, but yeah. I haven't seen the pump fund news. Does someone want to give me a TLDR? I've been on a call pre-stream. Hello, boys. Welcome. Well, I mean, Tesla could give another leg, especially with the indexes being stronger and looking for that 6,000 clip. Oh, yeah, I did see it, actually. Yeah, raising 1 billion, 4 billion FTV. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I mean, meme coin landscape, it's important. It's important for the space, I think. Without any airdrop. Good. Look at that. Good on them. Fuck everyone. Someone asked about ENA before, and I just said resistance. Like this is a nice structure up here, and ENA is just very, very simple here. This is a big support or former support level. It looks as though it will be a resistance point. Just seemed like a nice area for a quick trade to the downside, but still plenty of work to do there. If this low goes on BTC at 105, then I think that we start to see more impulse to the downside. If it can still continue protecting that low, this structure is fine. This structure is still fine. If this low snaps, then I think that's where we get the aggression. So it's just about lower time frame, low protection, I think, here for BTC, and then it will differ if that starts to snap. So fuck, zoom in. Why do you choose the stop loss there on ENA? Because so I entered this when we started to diverge the hourly here. So you can see here, we're starting to weaken across the highs. And then you get this. And then this last leg up here, is basically like I can choose to go super tight here because this is still, an acceptable play. I can choose to squeeze that stop loss 1% and say, look, the impulse has to happen now. If this divergence is valid, it has to roll over at this point. That's absolutely an acceptable play. I set it up here because I was slightly concerned that it would take one more stab into this. Whether or not that be a sweep, whether or not that be, kind of a candle close, whatever. But this still is in the position to support, more weakening. But this being an important level. So I was giving myself like a little bit of distance here, a little bit of room to be able to manage any more upside without being super tight about the stop. But like I can absolutely drag the stop down now and protect that position more. So I can have that 1% instead of, 2.5%. Sol. Yeah, I'm pretty much just like, I can just mouthpiece these off because I covered it all today. Like flaggy structure, moving back into a big space at 162. I said before, you've got to flip 162 if you've got bullish intention here, and you've got to support 150s. If you don't start supporting these areas, especially at 150, which has seen good reaction previously on the daily, then it pulls back into question the range lows at 130. So that's really where we are. Higher time frame, I still don't think anything really changes on the Sol side of things. We're hoping that this is just kind of this deviation of the low that we've got on the higher time frame, because we know the monthly is in a good spot here. And so monthly above 125 is basically where we want to be. And then it's just then the lower time frame stuff, the back and forth. But yeah, I think, you know, if you take it kind of just in terms of simple steps here, a loss of 150 brings into play the 130s. You want to see the 150s supported lower time frame. You know, hopefully just get a sweep of this and maybe a bounce, but this situation here is not looking great. Yeah, and then bidding FARTCOIN. Bidding FARTCOIN is such a difficult thing to be able to determine, because I think when you're looking at something like FARTCOIN, I think you're looking at it from the perspective of you're either trading this because you plan on holding a spot bag and therefore invalidation is less important, or if you're looking at trading this on a more active basis and playing into the volatility of this market, then obviously we're kind of, it's a bit more challenging to determine where that would be as a sensible point when something moves as aggressively as this does. Simple levels that we can start mapping out down here around 93. So basically exactly where we're bouncing from now. This is a major resistance point for FARTCOIN through here before it managed to trade higher. So we've got that one as our first base. And then if we get kind of, you know, full chaos scenario, then we'd be looking back down towards this higher time frame level flip down here, and this probably being one of the juicier, most interacted with levels that we've got on the FARTCOIN chart. But for this scenario to happen, obviously we'd be looking at a breakdown in BTC as well. So we'd be looking, you know, universally across the board that crypto would be taking a pretty hefty hit from a BTC rejection at the top of that 106 level. What's the website to import all the futures watch lists on an exchange? They took down Sandwich. I don't know what happened to Sandwich, but Sandwich used to be the place that everybody used to go. But I don't know what the new location is. I think Barrett knows. Yeah, okay. Woodspot.ai. There you go. Woodspot.ai. And if your Bored Apes get snatched, blame Barrett, not me. This is relatively decent on BTC. It's trying to put in the divergences, and again, you know, kind of we expect that down towards the lows of this area. Like I said, just market structure protection mode here. I think everything's relatively chill unless the logos. There you go. Apes are gone. Easy. Easy. Main exchange. I'm very glad you asked, man. It's Blofin. So I'm trading at Blofin at the moment. So it's a nice ref link to sign up at with some free money available for you if you go ahead and sign up and trade there. Super easy to get. Thank you for being the paid actor to allow me to shill that to you. But yeah, go sign up at the Blofin link. It's so easy to get the futures bonus. So everything is chill except if you're in FARTCOIN. Yeah, I mean, like, look, you got to, but then that's what it's like holding FARTCOIN. You're not going to get an easy ride on FARTCOIN, apart from when it starts, you know, cycling hard to the upside. But it's also a great fucking market to trade. We speak a lot about, you know, reducing the number of markets that we're actively looking at, so we don't have a watch list that looks like this, because this is just like not conducive at all to a positive trade experience. There's just way too much shit that's going on here, and we're trying to capture everything, and then people are like diving between alts, and they're pissed off because something's up 10%, but their alt's down 1%, and Like, having a big watch list is such a fucking nightmare from a trade perspective. So FARTCOIN is such a good market to focus on independently trading and not getting distracted. So there was a phase when in my trading path, career, whatever you want to call it, where I solely traded ETH for a year. That's all I did. I scalped ETH back and forth for a year. And, you know, I learned a lot about that market. I learned about my approach. I kind of had a lot of focus around that. And FARTCOIN is like, if FARTCOIN existed back then, I would have done it on FARTCOIN, because the volatility and the payoff is fucking astronomical. And you have a market that puts in like significant upside and downside moves on a regular basis. And it basically eliminates the need to be able to trade lots of markets. You don't need to hunt that value elsewhere, because you've got something that moves to such a great degree, it can pay you very well. I mean, maybe the $1 run's the one, you know? That's why I stopped trading leverage. Been in FARTCOIN since 0.27, spot and chill. My man. RIVN, robotics, Tesla, and Lemonade are my focus markets. Fucking good shout, Barrett. Great markets. Fuck off. ALCX. Can we just do one fucking stream where that shit is just dead, you know? Where that meme is just gone. That meme has survived better than most meme coins. Yeah, Lemonade's been great. Like I posted about this morning, I think it's just one of those stocks that sets up very well to potentially have significant upside. Like, sure, it can do the like lower time frame correction thing here, relatively decent, you know, correction on the hourly. Today's just a nothing day for it, but monthly time frame, I mean, this is as good as it gets to a higher time frame retest with an RSI reset like this. I used to sell Lemonade Insurance. Do they give you stock? We've done it. We've done a little bit of hype, man. I think it still looks really strong. I think the higher time frames still look good for hype. And you know, we were saying that the bears will be talking about the fact that there's a potential for a lower high through here. But you know, it's a market that, you know, once again, it's basically in the BTC position. It's correcting and now recovering on the back of making a significant push. So Yeah, Roblox chart. Have I still got the fucking short publication on here? Yeah, thread drops. It was here. Remember that thread? It was the Pico bottom. It was the absolute stone cold low. Look at that. How much did this market open down? What do we open down on this day? 10% lower? I also remember CBS talking shit for a couple of minutes about waves just before it pumped hundreds of percent. Yeah, man, I told that dude to sell his waves bag. I was like, it's cooked. This market is trash. It's never coming back. You're done. Just get out of it now. And I think it literally went on 700% run. From the moment I finished my discussion, from the minute I told him to sell everything, I'm pretty sure it started that fucking 700% run. Give us a trade already. Just take FARTCOIN. Like, just take FARTCOIN. It's at support. Just play it off support. Like, fuck. That's just like baby pip stuff. You know, it's like it's at support. Just play it as a support trade. If it loses the support, you stop, take your trade, you lose money. That's it. Otherwise, you might catch something nice. And the other trade you take is if BTC breaks the low on the hourly, you short it. If it takes down the low here, you short it down. Aim for the lows down here. Nice, easy trade. Not closing my FARTCOIN short. Nice. What? So what do you mean? You're in a trade. Gun to your head in Minecraft. Do you buy ETH at 2150 or BTC at 98? ETH at 2150. ETH at 2150 because I think it's easier for invalidation. Although I know the BTC parameters as well, but I think it's easier for invalidation with a stronger level than BTC is. It's like BTC, you know, you're playing it because it tags in here, and then you're stopping out here. But if you catch the ETH one, then that's going to be like a 45%er. I don't know if in 98K is a 45% trade. That's the way I would justify it to myself. Jesus Christ, half the chat is short on FARTCOIN. What do you think on Sol? We covered it. Lower time frame chop has to hold 150. If it doesn't hold 150, 130s are on the table. We definitely don't want to see the lows at 130 go. 125 is the monthly support level, and the weekly still looks absolutely fine with a deviation of the low. I think it's like higher time frame. This is really well set up here. We've had the 4-hour divergence play out in corrections, trading back towards the highs. I think the indexes are fine. And then BTC's in the position as well where the higher time frame daily is just reset. Yeah, I got you, Barrett. Good night. Thank you. Grass and syrup. grass, fat chop, syrup. Oh shit, we talked about this last time, right? Resistance here at 45, correction here, maybe 40s. This is juicy. Somewhere here, tap into this. Send higher. I don't think this needs to visit 5600. I think this looks fine. I don't think this needs to do anything crazy on the downside. Today was a really good day for the indexes. I think I think from here, what are we? $200 off all-time high. 300 and nearly 400 off the 5600 that you'd like, or you think needs to be visited. Apart from the fact that this is a far shorter distance all-time high, I think there's a far greater chance of this trading into all-time highs before 5600. $5,600 can be achieved with one bad headline. Yeah, but so can all-time highs, like with one good headline. Like if you're like, preface for trading is the fact that there could be a bad headline which moves the market. Like, it's just kind of a nonsensical point. You can just make that argument about everything. We'll do another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap up for the evening. More traveling to be done this week. FARTCOIN back above 1. If ETH pushes past 3K, think ETH memes and alts get movement? Most definitely. Most definitely. So we just brushed the whole tariff thingy under the carpet? Well, essentially, because like the whole tariff thingy really is just like posturing. It's just posturing, right? So just as easily as Trump is coming out and saying, yeah, we're going to slap 50% tariffs on people, it's just as easy to say, actually, we're not going to. Or it's just as easy to actually write into effect lower totals. And so right now, it's all just kind of like people trying to get their bollocks out and show them off to people, right? And who's got the largest pair. But it's just as easy to go back on all of that bullshit when it actually comes to putting pen to paper. So that's why the market is very reactive to that. And it's also why the market started to settle down a little bit when it comes to that side as well. So the most recent kind of China side of things, apart from when we hit Apple harder and we had the EU side discussions, the market has been a little bit more tolerant of that discussion. I think the dollar's weak. I think the dollar's weak here. I think this is a good range retest at the lows in terms of resistance. I think we go fresh lows. I think this is still looking weak. It's just default RSI. There's nothing special about it. Do you believe cannabis stocks will make a comeback? I mean, they're pretty fucked. We had a crazy cannabis bull run. What was it, 2019? That shit was just doing numbers. But obviously, Republicans, it's a bit of a trickier sell. How's FARTCOIN looking now? Ah, look at that. Nice bounce. Can you be confident off that? Probably not. Still a nasty looking daily, yes. But so far okay. Yeah, and then this is the simplified BTC look, where it's just like RSI is reset, trend is starting to cool off. We've had a correction. We're down 8% from the high, relatively decent. And then remembering that this is where we've come from. This is where we've come from. We've done pretty much 50 days of upside, and we're 50% off. And that's it. So I don't know if I'd short AAVE. I don't know if I'd short that here. Actually looks like relatively decent correction for it. Like resistance is through here, 270s. So maybe this is a reactionary point to it on the higher time frames. But again, the problem's going to be the BTC side. Like that's, if there's going to be a problem, it's because BTC loses this hourly low and starts to impulse more aggressively to the downside, and it's going to pull everything with it. Right now, I think that RV looks pretty decent. This is when people panic sell and regress it a few days later. On what chart? FARTCOIN? Or just because we're like 1% down on other stuff? LTC is fine, but it needs to be trading clear of the daily consolidation. It's just attacking the lows. The MKR has always had a problem around 2000. But again, reset perspective, very good here. This is very nice. And even on the ETH side, you know, just like a little bit more red on ETH, and suddenly we're here. And then this makes it far more attractive. So I said before about, like, I don't need to guess which way this consolidation breaks. If this RSI resets at a neutral position here while ETH is consolidating here, I'll take the chance on longing it. Right, I'll definitely do that then. Yeah, okay, so like, how would you play whiff here? Well, you basically give the two outcomes. So you're saying it could be a range reclaim, but also a lower high. So I think that you need to like have a little bit of a dive in terms of what's here. So I think probably the daily doesn't really give too much, but this level here is obviously important to whiff. So you're looking at trading from 93, and then you have your invalidation based on the lower time frame. If you're looking here and you're concerned that this is kind of market structure break because we've snapped our low here, okay, we've now got the lower low, and then this is going to be some sort of lower high territory against this, and the continuation is going to be there. Invalidation has to be down here still with the structural low. Okay, so you still have to position this as your low. So the trade on the daily is just going to give you wider parameters to have to deal with in a significant stop loss distance. Whereas if you dive down into the 4-hour chart, then potentially you're able to use this level and say, well, we should be bouncing off this. If we do not, that's a problem. And that's it. Could just long ETH after the RSI trendline breaks to the upside. That's one way of looking at it as well. But again, when the RSI breaks, when that snaps, it's going to be because this is breaking out. It's going to be the same action day. All right, let's wrap up there. So right now, I think really the market is still engaged in lower time frame chop. We're seeing like brief periods of impulse back and forth. We're seeing, you know, markets turn green, markets turn red, markets turn back green. We're starting to see some markets that are having more significant sell-offs, some markets like the DeFi area that's starting to see more significant growth to the upside. But we're still in a position on BTC where we're locked in chop, the same on ETH. So lower time frame, if you're super focused there, then ideally you want to be on the more volatile markets like FARTCOIN that are giving you the sort of percentage moves that are going to make the chop worthwhile to actually trade. If you're looking for decision making on other markets, I think you're still sitting on your hands waiting until we have more clarity. 25 days of ETH chop back and forth in this consolidation after a significant move from where it had been. Like, that is to be expected. It's not like this is suddenly out of the ordinary or it's changed the whole dynamic of the market because we've done that. It's simply because we're bored and frustrated with the fact that we're not getting the simplicity of the moves we had for that really nice 3-day period. Okay. So where we are right now, like I said, is we still need some more information on what's going to happen here. We need a plan for both sides of this. Where are you going to look at being a buyer if BTC does reject this level? What are you going to do if BTC or ETH make a push to the upside and we do get that break higher in TradFi and we do get the indexes pushing towards all-time highs, which I still think is on the cards? The only thing that we can do really is strip back the markets to try and give us some simplicity in decision making, because I can sit here for an hour and talk about how there's different signals for up and different signals for down. All that really matters is what actually happens, what actually transpires in the markets, and what signals are given. Most important thing that you can do is learn how to execute. So if you can execute on what's actually being given and provided by the market, because the only truth that we know is what the candles actually print. We can do all of this kind of thought process, and we can do all of this nice theory crafting on what direction we're going to go and what impact the global economic headlines are going to have for the markets. The only thing that we know is what is printed on a chart, and that's the only thing that we can execute from, or should be executing from. So for now, like I said, super unfortunate that it has to be one of those streams where I'm like, look, I don't really know which direction it's going to go, and I don't care about admitting that. Like, I don't have to know the answer to that. I know I'll be able to act on whatever the next move is, but today, sitting here, I don't think there's enough evidence for me to, to have any really fixed, strong bias on this has to do this from this point. I think the market is choppy. I think it's pissing people off. I think it's causing people to bleed out money. I think you just need to be able to sit and patiently wait until there's clarity in the market. Maybe that comes with the TradFi push to all-time highs. Maybe that becomes because TradFi sells off and metals continue to move higher. But at this point, it's simply more information and evidence required to be able to formulate any strong bias on the next shorter term steps. When you look at the higher time frame of many of these markets, Hype, BTC, you got markets that have pushed into all-time highs. They've pushed into price discovery. It's hard to be able to say, oh, they're weak. Those markets look very ropey right now. They're markets that, literally a week ago we're sitting in price discovery mode, and they're down 8% from the highs. Who fucking cares? It's nothing in terms of figures. So when we look at the higher time frames, I don't disagree with a bullish thought process that these markets look strong. It's the same on TradFi, the indexes. And we're talking about shorter term time frame movements, and we're talking about what's going to happen over the next 2, 3, 4 days. That's where it becomes a little bit harder. But I hope that everybody has a good rest of the week. Thank you very much for joining me. Your time is always very much appreciated, listening to me babble on about the markets and discuss my views and my theories for how things may or may not transpire. And I appreciate it greatly. Big thank you again to Blofin. If you guys want to go and sign up there, it would be greatly appreciated. And everybody have a wonderful, profitable, fun-filled, relaxing, stress-free, happy week ahead.